Hello everybody, and welcome to Brick Cave Books. I'm Bruce Davis. I'm here to sign books. This is something we usually do in person, but obviously under the circumstances I'm going to have to do this as a virtual signing. Please tune in, feel free to chat. I'm happy to talk and answer questions. And Bob is here, and he's happy to take orders for books if anyone is interested.
I am. So you can't see me, but I am in the background. So if you would like to go ahead, we do have some books that people pre-purchased. So yeah, we'll be filling those out shortly. But if you have a book that you would like to order, feel free to drop your email to me. You can send it as a direct message to Bob Nelson. Or if you want to send me a chat to let me know to message you to get the email so that we can send you a PayPal invoice, we will go ahead and do that. That way we don't have your emails floating around that I just thought about right now. We don't probably want you to have your emails floating around. So, Bruce, tell us a little bit about Gold Magic.
Gold Magic. Gold Magic is the second book in my Magic Law series. Someone's asked me, well, what's that about? How would you describe it in one concise sentence? The best I can come up with is Lord of the Rings meets Law and Order. This is a world that contains all of the classical fantasy races, but we're in a thoroughly modern environment. And oh, by the way, this is a police procedural novel tracking down various bad guys depending on what kind of illegal magic they happen to be using. Gold Magic continues the story of Simon Buckley and his team of magic enforcers. It is a sequel, but a standalone. So these are not a one long story trilogy. I can talk about that and my own feelings about those kind of books if people are interested. I happen to like writing standalone novels that one could pick up and read in almost any order and pretty quickly figure out what's going on. Obviously, these stories each build on events from the past, and I think that's also an important part of this. But they can be read in any order, and they all come to a satisfying conclusion. So, Gold Magic is book 2. Silver Magic, which I'm pretty well into now, will be book 3. With our current lockdown, I've had a lot of time to do some serious writing, and so we're moving right along. I'm hoping to get that one done within a couple of months here.
So, Bruce, without giving anything away, without, spoiler alert, where do we find our intrepid crew at this stage?
So the black blurb here is a pretty good description. This is taking place several months after the events of Platinum Magic. We've had one replacement on the crew. They're down in the Hollows, which is the Orc-dominated slums in the south of the capital city of Cymbeline, and they stumble onto a fairly ugly blood magic ritual. So the main kind of story that drives the events along is finding the criminals who perpetrated that illegal ritual. The real story back here, though, has a lot to do with the Orcs. Orcs in this society are the underclass, and I was very interested in exploring both their culture and how they interact with authority, how they interact with the rest of the races. So the kind of deeper story, if you will, in this has to do with the Orcs and their plight in this society.
So how are your Orcs different than, let's say Tolkien's Orcs or...
Well, they're not the Uruk-hai, okay? These are not the big, ugly orcs of D&D fame. Orcs in this world are generally the lesser breeds, the smaller ones. I don't really reference Tolkien or any of the other classic texts other than to say that the orcs lost the war. The society in which they're living now, as I said, this is a modern world. They have all the consumer conveniences that we do, the Orcs make up pretty much the underclass. And they have their own reservations where they govern themselves. Think Native American reservations. But they also are guaranteed rights in the Commonwealth, which is the country they live in. How much they're able to do, though, is dictated an awful lot by society and custom, just like today.
So, you know, you are building this world where all of your races sort of try and build some sort of a coexistence with each other. So it's not like you've set these in a world where these races are dead set that one will win and the other will be completely eliminated. You're kind of trying to build this world where everybody's trying to find some way to get along. And I know that there's a certain amount of plot driving going on that I can't really, you know, I don't want to necessarily divulge, but that is a very interesting sort of parallel concept to a lot of what we deal with in real life, it would seem. So,
each of the races essentially has their own homeland. The elf homeland is the Grey Havens. The dwarves have the Ironlands. The orcs have what's called the Azeri Empire, which is a bit backward. Think old Soviet Russia for the kind of analog to the Azeris. But the Commonwealth, which would be sort of our Western society, is built on the same principles that our Constitution is. Everyone is guaranteed rights that can't be infringed by the government. We're all theoretically equal under the law, even though everyone knows that some are more equal than others, and that's part of the tension here. The other nations, if you will, are governed very differently, and so there's a little bit of exploration of that in Gold Magic, more so than there was in Platinum, particularly with dealing with the elves and the elf society and how they treat the orcs. And there's a stark contrast between how things are done in the Havens and how things are done in the Commonwealth that actually is a big plot driver in this book.
So we do have a question that just came in. Talk about the cascading magic, the idea of cascading magic.
Okay. I like to think of my magical, how would I call it? My magical system as alternate physics. So the humans have actually figured out how magic works. Magic to them is the willful manipulation of probability. So if we think of quantum mechanics, basically the entire universe exists as a probability matrix. We can't know the exact position or exact speed of any particle, only one or the other, basic uncertainty principles. To them, magic is the willful manipulation of that uncertainty to produce a certain outcome. And all of the accoutrements that go along with casting a spell simply help to focus the magic caster's will to make that happen. They have a concept of what's called quantum magic, where magic occurs as all or none phenomena only at certain times and under certain conditions. They have a concept of chained magic, in other words, a chain of probability. So you can cast a spell on an ordinary object to do a certain thing when certain conditions are met. And this is the basis of the consumer economy. Everyone walks around, if I can interrupt here, with a magic mirror in their pocket that they can use to talk to other people. It's a spelled object, and you say the right words or you do the right thing, and then it does its thing. First order probability is easily done. Second order castings are much more difficult because they'll kick in when a certain spell is cast or when certain conditions are met. Third and fourth order kind of probability chains becoming increasingly difficult as time goes on, and you need more and more magical skill in order to make them work. That's a minor plot point here as well. They also have an understanding that the ability to cast falls off with the square of the distance, so if you're too far away, it won't have any effect. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of speaks to some of our understanding of physics. I don't know whether I should reveal that or not, but in Platinum Magic, major plot point, this is not Earth. This is not some alternate history. This is basically a parallel universe. And that's acknowledged in Platinum Magic and actually a concept that's explored.
But you typically work hard to keep these as independent books. So you could pick up Gold Magic, read it, and then go back and kind of catch up with Platinum after. Is that?
I think fairly easily. One of my goals actually is to make each of these books standalone to the point where I don't like info dumps, but I put enough information in there that the attentive reader can figure out who's who and what's going on pretty quickly, so that you can get up to speed on the world and how things work.
So let's go ahead. Let's sign a couple books. I've got another question after you've signed a couple books. So who's first on your list there?
First on my list here is Seth Wilson. If you're watching, Seth, this one goes out to you.
And Seth has the distinguished position of having waited the longest. I think he's been waiting
since March.
Yeah, Seth has been waiting a while. So just a shout out to Seth. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate you getting that order in and supporting us, and then kind of hanging out while we got ourselves together. So,
and the next one is for Steve Casillas. And Steve, I think I know who you are. I know you commented on Platinum Magic. I hope Gold does not disappoint.
So while you're signing that, here's the next question that's come in. So, as an author, just from being from a fellow author, that they like the deep cultural aspects that you've developed in the series. And as an author, how do you keep all of this straight? Is it, do you keep a journal? Do you keep
it's all up here. I'm not a journal writer. I'm not an outliner. I'm not one of those people who has note cards pinned to a board somewhere that keeps all of this stuff straight. And hopefully there aren't too many inconsistencies as we go along through this series, because I don't do that sort of thing. Part of it, for me, is that this is, in my head, a very, very real place with real people. And that helps to keep it straight. I do have to go back to previous books and make sure I get the names right and the spellings right, the directions right, because if you're traveling south to go someplace in book 1, you better be traveling south to get there in book 2. But otherwise, quite frankly, the city in which a lot of this takes place is, in my head, pretty much as real as Phoenix. And so, knowing where all these things are and how the city's laid out, it's not that hard. All I have to do is come up with street names and addresses and make things happen.
So how many books do you see this series going? Or do you have
at least 4? Beyond that, it'll kind of depend on what kind of reception it gets and whether I get tired of this world by that time.
So that's a hint for everybody. You can log in right now. You can either reach out to us to say, hey, invoice me for a book, or you can actually just go on brickcavemedia.com and order a book, and we're probably going to keep Bruce busy here for another 10 minutes or so that you can get that book ordered, and we'll get that signed for you. If you want to go ahead and sign another couple of books, I've got another question.
Watch the author sign books. This is terribly fascinating. I actually enjoy doing this when we go to fairs and cons and events.
Which we don't get to do right now.
Which we're not able to do right now.
Very sad about that.
But I would love to meet with people and talk books, talk about my books or any other books when we're able to get back and do these things.
So I think our next scheduled event big event is LA that rescheduled to October, if that comes to pass.
That's going to come to pass.
So, next question. It's clear that you like to write standalone books that include the same characters, etc. What's the most challenging part of writing a series for you?
I think for me, it's giving each character their due. Because obviously in any book you have kind of primary and secondary characters, but I'm trying to write what I guess would be the equivalent of a TV ensemble series rather than one-star series. I do tend to write from one point of view, so most of this is in Simon's head. He's the main character, there's no question about that. But I want to make sure that I develop the rest of his team and other characters sufficiently so that they're not just cardboard cutouts. And for me, that's the challenge, and that's what's hard. I tend to get into one particular storyline or plot and forget that there might be an important subplot that's going to tell us about Jack Ironhand, for instance, and where does he come from? And I know, because I invented him, but I think readers might be interested in Jack's background and why he is the way he is. Certainly in Gold, get fairly heavily into the character of the Orc team member in Gold Magic, because this is really about the Orcs. And so there's a lot about him and his interactions with the rest of the team and his interactions with his own society, since as a peacekeeper, the equivalent of the cops, he's kind of outside of the Orc society that he grew up in, and he's having to negotiate both worlds, so that's a little complicated. To me, that's the hard part, I think, is giving each character their due. I
Sure.
sometimes struggle with
absolutely. That. So, the next question, not that we're gonna dismiss Gold Magic right now, but the next question is, what's next from Bruce Davis?
Silver Magic, as I said. And I'm not revealing too much. In my magical system, various metals augment various types of magic. And again, their understanding breaks magic down into earth, air, fire, water, kind of typical classes. And each has a very specific augmenting metal. So platinum is earth, gold is fire, silver is water. I've chosen aluminum for air, which might sound a little weird in modern society, but in classic chemistry, prior to the development of the electrolysis method for separating aluminum from bauxite, aluminum was incredibly hard to refine. And in the mid-19th century, it was one of the most valuable metals in the entire world. Now that sounds weird because we wrap food in aluminum. But there's a reason that the capstone of the Washington Monument is made of pure aluminum.
Interesting. So you actually are working on a project that for some time, that is a historical sort of fiction,
yes, it
if
is.
you will. Talk about it.
Well, I can put people to tears with this
I'm
one
putting you on
because
the
this is a
spot.
passion. So, a little background for me. As people may know, I currently work as a trauma and general surgeon. I've been doing that for 30 years, and it's a big part of who I am. But in college, I majored in neurophysiology with a minor in history, which is kind of a weird juxtaposition, I must admit. I've been a history fan all my life, particularly the Civil War. And I'm currently very slowly working on a historical novel dealing with the Civil War, and to be more specific, with events that occurred in London and Liverpool in 1861 to early 1863. Why? Well, if people think about what happened in Berlin in the 1950s between the Soviets and the Americans, everything that went on in Berlin in the 50s was going on in London and Liverpool between the Union and the Confederates. There were spy networks on both sides, there were dead drops, there were honey traps, there were assassinations, there were break-ins and robberies, double agents, every bit of tradecraft that is usually associated with Cold War spy novels actually really went on in that area during that time, which I found just absolutely fascinating. And so the novel, the historical novel, is going to be about those events. It's particularly hard for me to write because it deals with real people in a real timeline, and I'm a seat-of-the-pants writer. I don't do outlines at all. So I'm kind of forced right now to stick to a timeline and real people.
Very cool. So that's something that definitely fans of your writing can look forward to.
Yeah, I hope they don't look forward to it with much anticipation because every time I do a chapter, I end up going down the research rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's all right.
I actually know more about women's fashions in 1861 than any man has a right to know.
Nice. So we're showcasing not just the Magic Law series, but you have another series here with Brick Cave that
I do. My Prophet series, Prophet as in make a profit. Think a dark Firefly, or trying to think of something more current. Night Flyers, maybe. Small spaceship crew trying to make a living in the solar system, not necessarily on the right side of the law all the time. There are currently 2 books with Brick Cave Media in that series. Glow Gems for Profit and Thieves Profit. Profit and Loss is a series of short stories set in the same universe that's out as an independent publication. And again, in order to work on my Magic Law series, I've shelved Profit Motives, but that will be coming hopefully within the next year.
So the obvious question that has just come in is, will there be other books?
There will be. I got about halfway into Profit Motives and found that I was starting to tell the same story I had told before. So I pulled the plug for a period of time to let that marinate for a while I worked on Platinum Magic. Because Bob insisted that I work on Platinum Magic.
Get to work, writer.
And once I get a little bit more done on Silver, I plan to go back to the Prophet universe and at least finish that book. I've come up with some ideas about how I can revamp that and make it work.
So I am curious. This is my question. It seems like most of the Prophet series is inner solar system stuff.
Yes.
Is there anything outer solar system or
not in that world yet?
Okay.
Again, I tend to veer a little bit toward hard science fiction. We can't go faster than light, and even with the best type of drive that I've postulated here, you're just not going to get to another star system in any kind of reasonable period of time. So even the outer solar system is only beginning to be colonized now. The asteroid belt is the wild frontier.
Which did we don't really get into that in either of those 2 books, do we?
Well, the Belters
a
are
little
a big
bit.
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Delilah is a real place here and important. Ceres is a big player.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it plays into it. There are some moves within the book to start colonizing some of Jupiter's moons, but those are very, very tentative. Right now, the universe that this is in is recovering from a fairly disastrous war between Earth and Mars. They've got to get their stuff together before they're going to start moving out again.
So, tell us about your cover illustrators. Tell us about the artists that created your covers.
Well, this is Philippon. He's done both those covers, and I'm thrilled with the artwork. I just adore the artwork on this. I think artwork sells the book, and he has done everything that we had in mind. These have come out even better than I anticipated. Cover work for profit is done by a British artist who goes by the name of Raven, and she does excellent work as well. You can see, just look at the covers, they're very nicely done. They get the point across, they set the mood, and I plan to go back to her for the next profit cover for sure.
Very cool. So, grab another couple books, throw some signatures on them. Let's give everybody a chance. If you want to order a copy, you can go to brickcavemedia.com real quick, or if you throw your name in the chat, I'll message you, and you can give me your email address, and I can send you an invoice on PayPal, and we'll get a couple more books sent out today. Thank you to everybody that has pre-ordered the book. The book is available on Amazon as well, so you can certainly, if you're an Amazon person, which we are not. But
well, buy through Brick Cave because it's better for us, and it's
buy
just
direct.
as easy. I mean,
Buy
it
direct.
really is. It's no more difficult to order from Brick Cave than it is to order from Amazon.
Exactly. It really, actually, we give you better choices too, payment choices. So anyway, that aside, what else are you doing? What else is going on?
In my life, or just writing?
In your life. I mean,
well, as I said, I'm a trauma and critical care surgeon in my day job, and it's been pretty hairy. This epidemic has got everybody on edge. It's been an interesting time because regular hospital admissions are down, but trauma doesn't ever go away. And universal precautions make it really tough to do a trauma evaluation. Let me tell you, it's hot in those PPEs. Family's good, life is what it is. Mm-hmm. And while I love writing, I don't know that it's going to pay for my retirement yet, unless you folks get out there and buy a lot more books. Help me retire. I'm of an age where that's the thought. But I actually do love what I do, and I don't see myself quitting anytime soon. So,
well, thank you, Bruce, for taking the time to come in and socially distance yourself and hang out and sign some books for us and kind of talk to everybody about Gold Magic. And please, again, Gold Magic is available everywhere. Got a thank you for the wonderful stories to help distract from everything that's going on right now. So this video, of course, will be available on Facebook, and we'll, of course, put it into the Brick Cave Media YouTube as well. So next up after Bruce is Bill Campana. We've got him coming in next week on Thursday. And then May 9th is Patrick Hare. So we've got a lot of books coming out right now. We're excited here at Brick Cave because of it. We're ready for people to get some new reading done. And would love to hear your thoughts. Remember, reviews are the lifeblood for any author. So,
for goodness sake, yes. If you read the books, post a review somewhere.
Yeah, just get out there and just do the review.
Gets our name in front of eyeballs, and the more eyeballs look at the books, the better it's going to be for us.
So, thanks again, everybody, for taking the time to join us, and we will see you soon. You can also catch us online at brickcavemedia.com. You can join the BC Book Club at bcbookclub.com, where you can leave messages for Bruce in their chat, and he can get in at his convenience when he's not doing trauma surgery stuff, and answer questions as well there. So don't hesitate to join that. And other than that, thanks so much for taking the time to join us, Bruce. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
And